Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. We have got to talk about episode 7 of The Bachelor. It feels like we are so close to the end and only 7 episodes in. This feels like a shorter season than normal almost.
I don't know. You tell me, David. I don't know what we're doing, but we're almost to hometowns. But first, if you're new to this channel, please click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up.
And if you want to support us on Patreon, there's a link in the description. Yeah, I can't really make heads or tails of anything that's happening this season. It just seems very odd, very short that we're already at only episode 7 and we're down to 4 ladies. I know we've probably got a women tell all in here somewhere, but oh boy, is women tell all going to happen? Is after the final rose going to happen? There's just a lot going on.
Well, women tell all has
right now.
already been recorded.
Yes, true.
That we know, and we do know that some people weren't there. But past that, I don't know. There's a lot of things up in the air. There's a little bit of some controversy that David and I usually don't try to get all up in.
Yeah.
We do have to touch on it a little bit, but let's save that for later because we have an episode that is jam-packed with exits.
Yeah.
Just peace out. Girl, peace out. Girl, peace out.
You got to get out of here. Like, we got to keep this moving. We've got the families. We got to bring them in. So that's all we're hearing.
Hometowns are next week. So we can only have 4 girls. But we start with a lot more than that. And actually, we started with our extra girl here at the top.
Yeah, we start with 11 women this episode. So it's Heather, right? We're picking up where we left off with Heather in her wedding gown. And she is here to shoot her shot. You know, she's like, I'm ready for an engagement. 1 week until you meet my family? I think we could do it, Matt. I'm serious about this. And the girls are like spying on them from outside the window. And it's like very dramatic. And Matt basically tells Heather, like, let me think about it. Like, he's not going to send her home on the spot, but he's like, give me a second. This is a lot.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Piper is legitimately melting down. She's straight losing it.
Yeah.
We see Matt saying that he trusts Hannah. So he's really gotta think it through because Hannah's with his bro, his Tyler. And so this would be something, a recommendation that he would take seriously.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Heather getting the brunt of these mean girls.
God. It's truly. Yeah, I wrote Mean Girls 3 on my notes here. But like, it is the one thing. Okay, the one thing I liked about this situation, Heather approaches this L couch of ladies, but there's no Abigail there. So I'm like, good for you, Abigail. I don't know where you are, if you went to the bathroom or if you're having one-on-one time with Matt. I don't care. I'm just happy that you're not there. But like, all these women who were like, MJ's got to go, specifically Jessenia. Jessenia is now a mean girl, and Piper and Serena C and Chelsea, like all these women. I mean, Serena C's kind of been a mean girl, but like, it's just devolving into the same thing we've already seen so many times. I can't believe they're doing it again.
Oh my God, Jessenia's jabs were next level. She just had them coming, and Piper just laying it on thick. Well, I'm not surprised by Serena C, who is like, I don't want to listen to your tears. Do that elsewhere. I mean, just poor Heather is like, started with a hey and like ended with a okay, guys, and like leaves the room.
Yeah.
I don't blame the girls on the couch for thinking any of these things. I get it's an emotional roller coaster. These are just things we don't say out loud.
Exactly. And we're not really hearing anything from Michelle, Bree, Rachel. They're not contributing to any like snide remarks. I think we get a couple of like sarcastic adjacent remarks from Serena P, but she's also pretty quiet. But like I said, the women that I listed before are where the brunt of the like meanness is coming from, but that's enough for Heather to walk away in tears. And Rachel's the only one, I think, who's saying in her confessional what the situation really is. And that is, if Matt chooses Heather over any of us, then the connection we thought we had with him was a lie. Like, this is really on Matt. It's not about Heather. It's not her fault
No.
that potentially you have a bad connection with Matt.
Exactly. If he keeps Heather and sends you home, or even just keeps Heather, then yeah, question your relationship with Matt. And is this
Yeah.
really someone that you want to be with? That is what we're talking about here, guys.
Yeah.
Like
And there's like no sense of I trust Matt to make the right decision, or I believe in what I have with Matt. I mean, I understand the
you don't
editors
hear
aren't
a
really going
lot
to
of
put
that.
that stuff in, because that's not the story they want to tell here. But like,
Yeah. It
it
would have
just
been nice to
takes
have one soundbite of that.
yeah, I think it's after Chris and Matt have their little like circle up outside. We get something from Kit when it's like, when is it going to be about us? And that I
Yeah.
feel like is a legit thought. It's she's not blaming Heather, but she's just kind of like, week after week, we have to deal with like new insanity, new people coming in. Like, when can I just focus on what I'm trying to build with Matt instead of all of this like outside drama? So I understand that and I respect that.
I understand the feelings for sure, but you're on a reality show and this is what happens. Producers bring people in, they want twists, they want surprises. So you can't really actually be legitimately mad. You signed up for a reality show. But honestly, at the end of the day, I feel so bad for Heather too. This was an absolute setup from the producers to just straight embarrass her. This was so awkward.
Embarrass her, for her to come and say, for her to take the time out. I mean, maybe she was unemployed. I don't know. Maybe she had nothing else going on, but she took all the time to come out here, quarantine, get all these tests done, put on this, dress and walk into the mansion for what, 90 minutes before Matt sent her away. And like, I think the producers knew that was going to happen.
Yes, it's too late. Like he made the most sense. He was like, look, any other time, I would have loved to get to know you better, but we are 6 weeks into this. Hometowns are next week. Like I've built connections with some of these other girls. Like this just doesn't make sense. And so I'm going to have to let you go. Poor Heather walked in after quarantining, was made to cry by these mean girls, and then just walked out by Matt. It was just awful. So awful.
For her, listen, normally the women get in the back seat of a black like town car, and Heather gets in a white minivan and drives herself away. Like,
she's still
that's
got that
sad.
rental.
Oh my God.
It's so sad. The whole thing. I don't know Heather, never watched her before, but I feel so bad for Heather. That was just not a good showing whatsoever.
No. But then I will say, like, she gets her like kind of teary moment in the car and in the confessional. Matt comes back in, and I think he handles it way better than the women did. Yes. And he apologizes right off the bat. Sorry for that craziness. I didn't know it was happening. And especially sorry to you, Piper. Gives her a direct apology for, that interruption of their time, invites her to finish that time. And the women are like, oh my God, Matt is so hot for the way he handled that. And I'm like, I hope he thinks you're hot for the way you handled it. Cause like that was not attractive.
No, he's watching that back now and going, ew.
Yeah.
If he picked one of those that really piped up, oof, yikes.
Yeah, I know.
This was okay. Well, yeah, he did handle it very, very well. Oh, I appreciate that. But let's be real, guys. If Hannah Brown really wanted you guys to be together, she should have sent you a phone number. She should have done a little setup. This is not the way to do it.
Set it up before he goes on the show. Like, how hard is it?
Or just wait, because odds are he ain't going to end up with this person. So just hang tight there, Heather.
Still plenty of time. Yes.
Yeah.
So the last little thing we get before we go into the rose ceremony is a little bit of Abigail. She's really nervous going into this rose ceremony. I'm nervous too. I am not feeling good about her position.
No. It was terrifying for Abigail this whole time, this whole episode. So we're going into this rose ceremony with Michelle and Piper having roses. And we see 6 roses sitting down there. So we know that 2 people are not going to get a rose at this point.
Yes. And I was pretty confident that Serena C was going to be one of those two who was
Yeah.
not getting a rose because we kept getting the same kind of story from her every rose ceremony where it's like, I hope Matt knows how I really feel. And I'm like, there's
No,
nothing happening here. There's no
no,
connection.
no.
Just, you got to go. This is the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, he has made no time for you. He's
Yeah.
just not that into you, and
Yeah.
for some reason, she's just still been around. So
Hmm.
yeah, I agree. She was definitely one that was going to go, but then I was worried about who the second person was going to be, and a little disappointed that it was Chelsea.
I know. I wrote down that I was predicting Serena C and Jessenia, honestly, to go home
Mhm,
there because I was like nervous for Abigail, but I really didn't feel in my gut that it was her time, that her
mhm.
story, wasn't quite over. But Chelsea was a surprise to me. I just thought that they really had more genuine connective moments than he has had with Jessenia all season. And frankly, even Abigail.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, in the preview, it looked like he was having a
I know.
one-on-one with Jessenia. So I was actually leaning towards Serena P, like both Serenas to go,
Hmm.
because he did not have chemistry with Serena P. I
Hmm.
stand by no chemistry with Serena P. And so this
Yeah.
would have been a fine time to have let her go. Also,
Sure.
Brie, we thought
Yeah.
maybe that had fizzled out by this
Yeah.
point, but
But you kind of
unfortunately, it was
notice that, like,
Chelsea.
yeah, you noticed as he's giving out the roses that he's giving them out one by one to the women who have had one-on-ones. It's
Yep.
Bree, it's Rachel, it's Serena P, it's Kit. And
Yeah.
then we're like, okay, now the 6 women who have had one-on-one dates have their roses. So who
Mhm.
out of this group is going to go home? And then it's Jessenia and Abigail who get those last 2 roses.
Get the
So
last 2 roses. Yep.
Chelsea and Serena C go home.
Well, Chelsea walks out of there like the gorgeous model that she is.
Uh-huh.
He'll dream about watching you walk away for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Matt will regret it. Mhm.
I think you're right. And at this point, I'm like, 8 women is way too many going into hometowns.
Well, yep.
Way too many. We are normally down to 6 here because it makes sense to send home 2 women and narrow it down to 4 for hometowns. So I'm like, why do we have so many? This is strange, but it makes
Well,
sense, I guess, based on what happens coming up.
yeah. Not for long here. So our first date card, we find out that we're gonna have 2 one-on-ones and a group
Right.
date. And that's convenient because there's 2 girls left who have
Hmm.
not had one-on-ones.
Yep.
So the math adds up for me, David, in this
Yeah.
moment. But the first card we read says Serena P. Hey, you want to hang out with
Serena
me again?
P, his good pal, Serena P.
Friend zoned Serena P gets a second
Yeah.
one-on-one while Abigail's like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Yeah.
a girl got to do around here?
What do I have to do? But Serena P gets I think it's our only repeat one-on-one
Yeah.
of the season going into hometowns. But this date is terrible. She goes to a tantric yoga class and she's not into any kind of sexy times. She
Nope.
doesn't want to even make eye contact with Matt.
Nope.
What is going on here?
This is amazing. Okay, so I start with like, are you kidding me? She gets a second one-on-one and Abigail hasn't gotten one yet. Okay, but then I'm like, well, he says, I feel like I got friend zoned with Serena P. So I really want to give her a second chance. I want to see what's there. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
great. This is a great setup to realize there's no chemistry here.
Right.
There
right.
is not, we're not that into each other here. And then we proceed into this tantric yoga class where she is like, I'm not about this, not enjoying this. I don't like this at all. And I'm like, great, still setting up. Here we go. Then she's honest with him about it. Not my thing, dude. And he was like, wait, what? I loved it. She's like, no, I don't want to stare into your eyes. No, thank you. I don't want to touch your body. No, thank you. And what does he do, David? He says, cool. Would you like to take this rose?
He's like, thanks for being honest.
Yeah.
Here's a rose. What?
What? She almost said, I'm just not that into you. She basically, she was like, nah, I'm not about it. And he was
And
like, well, you kept this rose. And she's like,
he
all right.
he frames it as, I like that you don't tell me what I want to hear. It's really, I think she's trying to tell him, please send me home.
Yeah, I'm just not that into you.
Right, exactly. And it's backfiring because I think it's making him want it more. He's like, oh, this girl's like kind of hard to get. I love it. Like, she's honest with me. She wasn't into that date. Okay, great. Yeah, let's do this. I want to try even harder to get you.
Yeah, a little bit of that. He's like, that's so cool that you're honest with me. And she's like, it's so much easier to be yourself than to pretend to be someone else. And I'm like, girl, yes, I love it. But you're not being yourself because then you're like, okay, yeah, I'll keep dating you and introduce you to my family.
Right. She is sending a little bit of a mixed message, being like, I'm kind of surprised that I want you to meet my family, but I do want you to meet my family.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the first parts, well, actually, I don't think any of it's true. I think that you don't want to really introduce them to your family. It just doesn't feel like you're into this at all.
No, you might be confused because there's cameras in your faces, but what we're seeing is that you're not into it. So this was super confusing, and I couldn't believe what was happening.
I know. In the middle of the date, we get the group date card coming through. Michelle reads the names, and at this point the girls know that it's either Abigail or Jessenia, most likely, who's going to get this one-on-one date, but it's only going to be one of them, and it ends up being Jessenia. And Abigail, she has a conversation with Jessenia where she's just kind of like, I ain't introducing no man to my family who I have not gone on a date with. Like, what's happening here? And thank you,
truth.
The voice of reason.
Yes. Thank you. Exactly. Yeah. You're making a lot of sense here, Abigail. Like, why it doesn't. And unfortunately, like, this is flipping the tables. Like, Serena P is giving all the signs to Matt that she's not into him. And Matt is giving us all the signs that he's not into Abigail.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard pill to swallow, but that's what's happening. And we're watching Abigail, basically realize it at this point.
Yeah. Right. Now, the group date was kind of weird, but I feel like they cut whatever activity was happening.
Yeah, the day part.
And they just showed the cocktail part of it. Hello, Diana. And this is just kind of like some intense conversations. He's kind of like, we just got to lay it all out on the table here. And Bree's like, okay, well, I quit my job a few days ago. So if you could not send me home right now, that'd be great.
Basically. Yeah. So the setup here is like, hometowns are next week. Like, let's figure this out, guys. I want to spend time with each one of you seriously. And let's talk about whatever it is that we need to talk about. And Bree's like, so for me, I told my job I would only be gone a couple weeks, but I'm still here. And so I had to resign. But here's what Bree did really, really well. Because look, we've all quit jobs for far less. But what she did was really wrapped it into her mom, which she had already talked to him about, single mother, raising her, had her young. And she threw in the words dream. She didn't say it was my dream job, but she just said working was a dream. It was all very kind of vague, but the way that she weaved it together was like, this is important and I need you to validate that. And he basically does.
Yeah, he does for sure. So they kind of have a nice, just sort of like reaffirming the connection chat. And then Abigail comes in and she needs answers. And frankly, we all do. And she's like, this week has been hard. I did not appreciate how he kind of acted dumb and was like, why do you say that? It's like, Matt, you have to know it's because you didn't give her a one-on-one and she's still here. And now she's the only woman left who has not gotten a one-on-one after getting the first impression rose. I don't know if that's ever happened, that someone who got the first impression rose never got a one-on-one date.
Yeah. This is, why are you acting like she has no right to be upset or confused?
Yeah. Right.
And she does a lovely job of just, she's not whining. She's not mad. No. She's like, I sit here and I picture my future and it's with you. And I'm just wondering if you can picture that as well. And he's basically like, no.
Yeah, she is very gracious in the way that
Yes.
she's wording things because I'm sure she wants to be like, what the hell? Why haven't you asked me on one date? And why did you lead me on? Because she kind of goes there. She's like, I've been vulnerable with you a few times. And each time I opened up and was vulnerable, you gave me a rose. That sends a very specific message. And, you know, she doesn't say this, but she's implying you led me on all season pretty hard.
Yes. And by extension, you led all of us on, Matt. And I don't personally appreciate it. Yeah, she was way more gracious than I would be. At this point, I'd have walked in there and been like, listen, buddy, what are you doing?
Let me tell you.
This is not working for me. So suck it up, give me a rose right now, or I'm out of here. But that probably wouldn't have worked either. I mean, he had not a good excuse. He's all like, we connected early, and so then I could forget about you and build these other relationships, which honestly, that's just a lie. He's just making stuff up in the moment because he doesn't really have anything good to say here other than he's not feeling it with her like he's feeling it with some of the other girls.
Yeah, but she's kind of the second woman here who's like, you know, if you're going to send me home, can you just do it now? Like, I don't want to wait for the rose ceremony.
Yeah.
And he's like picking up what she's putting down there. And he's like, okay, yeah, like, let me walk you out. You know, it's not going to be a thing for me.
And I think that the Bachelor Nation as a unit all cried or just their heart burst in this moment. This was our nightmare that he was just walking Abigail out with no actual chance. He did not give her a chance, no one-on-one. And then we watched this beautiful Abigail who has been nothing but wonderful this whole show. And she sits in the van and says something that just kills you.
Breaks your heart.
She's the one that teaches men what they want in the next person. Oh,
yep. No. And they never want that with me. And she said, she doesn't even say it's a hard pill to swallow. She says it's a hard pill that I'm going to have to swallow, as if like this is my lot in life. Like this is what I'm going to do for what I have done for men and what I'm going to continue to do for men is teach them what they want, and it's not me. It's just heartbreaking.
So heartbreaking. And it's not true. I'm sure it feels like it in the moment, but it is not true, Abigail. You are gorgeous and wonderful, and only wonderful things are going to happen to you because that's what you're putting out into the universe. It's all going to come back to you. And I don't know. Please don't go on Bachelor in Paradise. Just do something else.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm disappointed that this is the way her story went down and that, you know, Matt kind of treated her like this.
Screwed us all over.
Yeah, but I am like happy that we got to know her because I just enjoy her so much as like a person. And she was really a light on this season, especially as someone who didn't really get down into the like meanness and all of that we've seen so much of. You know, she kind of like floated above all of that. So it was just a huge bummer to see her go, and I will miss her.
Absolutely. Love her. Okay, we also see that Piper's falling in love with him. He makes out with Michelle. When Rachel comes in, she says she loves him. She's never felt like this. And he says he's been thinking about her even when she's not around.
She's gonna win. Yeah, their connection is still very much there. But my favorite conversation here was Kit, because Kit comes in and she's like, let's talk practical things, Matt. I am young. I need to travel. I've got some growing to do, and I need a career to start. So I'm not having, I mean, first of all, I thought it was hilarious that she was like, I'm not having kids until I'm like 25, 26. I'm like, oh God, like, how young are you? Like,
It's like a nice normal conversation of like, have a list of things that I am going to achieve before settling down and having babies. And I'm thinking when she's like, so it's going to probably be, and I'm thinking like 30. And then she says 25 and you're like, oh my God, I forgot you're a child still.
Right.
So
Yeah. Right. But again, she's kind of like, here's your out, Matt.
Here's your out.
These are all the reasons that you don't want to be with me and that this isn't going to work because I've got things I need to do still. And she's like
Matt, look, you know who my mom is, right? She's legitimately not coming to hometowns. ABC can't afford her appearance fee. She's got an appointment in Milan for a fashion week. Like, she's not coming here. So let me just set you up so that you can say, no, I really want a family soon. This isn't going to work. He doesn't pick up on that at all. No. And so we just leave at this moment where he's like, great. You're awesome, Kit.
Yeah. So happy you're here. And she's like, man, what do I got to say to get him to send me home? Like, what is going on? Now, I just have to, I know we don't normally talk about like the previews and whatnot, but you mentioned earlier that we knew Jessenia was going to get a one-on-one because they showed a preview of her at the one-on-one. And at this moment, after the conversation with Kit, they go to break. And in the teaser coming up, they show someone's luggage being wheeled away. So I'm like, well, now I know how Jessenia's date ends. Like, I don't know what is happening with editing this season, but the suspense is just dead every episode. It's like, I know exactly what's going to happen.
How dumb do you think we are? We know there's one-on-one left.
Right.
And you wheel out the suitcase in the preview. You just gave it away to us.
Yeah. I literally was like, when Jessenia's date came around, I mean, we got to finish the group date here. But when her date came around, I was like, I don't want to watch this. Like,
well,
I know she's going home.
I wanted to see how she went down in a flame. I wanted to see it. Couldn't wait. But before we get to some really good stuff here, because again, Kit's my girl here. They all have finished their time with him, and so they're back on the couch, and he's got to give out a group date rose here, and you know, feelings are just like on the edge of their hearts are on their sleeves or whatever. It's like their nerves. They're wearing them on the outside because we're getting so down to the wire here. And when he says, Rachel, I want to give you this rose and I want to take you to continue this date. Oh, Sarah? This got good.
This needs to be the new norm of how they hand out roses on a group date, because when he takes her to the Aloe Black concert,
which thank you, I finally know one of these artists.
Finally, I know one of them, thank God. But they're dancing and kissing and she's holding the rose and they're enjoying this music. And then it's cut with reaction shots of the women who have been left. Genius. I was like, I need this every group date.
Every group. It was so good. Like, Rachel and Matt are on a high. The song is called I Do. I mean, the romance is just oozing off of them. And the rest of the girls are in tears. They are literally devastated. They are so crushed right now.
No, Bree's wiping away real tears. Like, Kit still, I think, is like trying to like
Kit was
sniffle tears out of her eyes.
I still have to figure this out. Oh, what is going on?
Actual tears from Bree. Michelle's face is just like, what am I doing here? Like, is this real? I keep thinking it's real. And then this happens. You know, it's these shots of them just thinking and stewing in their disappointment, mixed with the song and the moment that Rachel and Matt are having. It's really inspired television. I loved it.
It is. And I mean, honestly, if Rachel isn't who he proposes to and he ends up with one of the girls that's sitting there crying on that couch, I just was picturing them watching this episode. Like, you don't want to be that person and then watch how this was cut together. No.
No, I don't want to see that.
Okay, so now we get to go to one of my other favorite moments of this episode. When after the date's over, Matt's back at his house. We're winding down. Knock, knock, knock. Kit's at the door. What's up, kid?
What could this be about?
Well, this is when she has to basically lay it out for him and was like, you didn't pick up the hints I gave ya. But again, my mom ain't coming to hometown, so.
She's not. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but there will be no hometown here,
this was
Matt.
My
contract is up. Okay, I have fulfilled
Yeah.
my obligations here, and I tried to be nice. I tried to give you some reasons. I opened the door for you to send me home, and you shut it with me still here. And so now I have to tell you that I'm not into you. And he's like, no, but I'm glad you're here. And she's like, okay, Matt, I'm serious. I'm going. Okay.
But honestly,
steadfast.
He was just being polite because in his face, he was like, good idea, Kit. Yeah. He's like, no, I like that you're here. I was actually thinking about maybe having, a rich wife and marrying into a famous family. But you know what? Yeah, I'm not really that into you either.
Was this the one where he was kind of weirdly smiling while she was like delivering bad news? Like he's like sitting there next to her on the couch listening, and he's just like, and she's like telling him that she doesn't like him. I'm like, Matt, are you even listening to what she's saying? This is not good news.
Yeah, because he was like, yeah, you're right. You should go.
Right.
There's nothing here. This is not really going anywhere. So she leaves. He walks her out. She goes, and she like briefly was like, am I making a mistake? And we're all like, okay, thank you for the drama.
You're fine. Yeah.
Kit, thanks for being on the show. But this makes the most sense. Bye-bye.
Enjoy your career that you're building now. So we move on to Jessenia's one-on-one, and it's drifting again with the cars, the extreme things. I'm just like, this does not feel like a good idea here with Matt at the wheel. I don't like it.
He does say in this he's an adrenaline junkie, and I'm like, this is what we said very first episode. Like, these are your choices of dates. Thank goodness someone intervened. I guess it was Chris intervened here in the middle and made some other dates happen, or else this was all we were going to see is four-wheelers being rolled over and drifting cars and
yikes.
Whatever that says. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I think Jessenia does a little bit of driving. She's pretty safe for the most part. And then Matt just drives into everything, which feels very Matt to me. Yeah.
But ultimately, he says good things come to those who wait. And Jessenia has been very patient. And she behaves the perfect way that she should on this date. She's acting like this is a dream date, that she's loving being there. She did a great move where she basically made him throw her on top of the car and tried to do like a romantic kissy thing. She is working every angle the best that she possibly can. But ultimately, we've already seen the suitcase roll out. So
thank you. Let's just cut to the dinner where she's like, again, she is really trying to play her cards right and pretend like it's not too late for us to form a connection when you have to decide who's going to, whose families you're going to meet tomorrow at the rose ceremony. But she's saying, I'm falling in love with you. Like she's like, listen, words. I got my checklist here of what I need to do on this date in order to get picked to go to the hometowns. And I'm checking everything off, Matt. And he's like, finally, he's kind of acknowledging that he doesn't have a connection with somebody. It's like, where was this with Abigail and with Kit and with Serena P, frankly, but whatever. Those people are all past. But here he's finally like, I'm just not there. The other connections I have are stronger, and she's gone.
And again, his face says it all. He just sits there while she's like gushing herself to him. Yeah. And he's like, cool. And then he waits.
Yeah. She says, I'm falling in love with you. And he says, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, please. Thank you. And now I'm going to pick up the rose and your face is going to light up because that means something positive. And then I'm going to hold it right here and tell you negative things and then say, shall I walk you out? And then you're going to be like, okay, thanks for that.
Yep.
And
that's how it goes.
Yep.
Yes.
He's not feeling it with her and he walks her out and she handles it fine because I'm sure deep down she knew that she was in danger with such a late one-on-one. And she's like, okay, cool. Got it.
Yeah. Right.
And out she goes.
Too little, too late. So Jessenia's gone. So now we are down to 5 women going into the
Yes.
rose ceremony. So this is even less than usual, going into determining what the hometowns are going to be. And who has a rose here? Is it just Serena P? She's the only one,
And
right?
Rachel.
Or no, Rachel. Right.
Yes.
Okay. So we only have 2 slots left for one-on-ones, and one of these women is going home. And
so we've got Piper, Michelle, and Bree, and one of them has to go.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be Bree, honestly, because Bree was that first one-on-one.
Yes.
And traditionally, that's a tough position to be in, because then he builds other relationships, along the way. And kind of what happened with Abigail, maybe he kind of forgets about Bree. But then she got the first rose. Good for her.
We know Michelle's getting it. They truly have a connection. So she's in. I personally was hoping it was Bree over Piper staying, because Piper, even though they seem like they have like a physical connection, him and Piper, Piper is not as mature as the other girls. Like
Sarah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Good. I'm glad I'm not the only one who's about to call her immature. But this girl, like, we saw her breaking down in the confessionals to the camera. We see her like going off on Heather. Like, she is emotional and not quite there for a relationship.
Yes, 100%. This is exactly what I wrote down. Like, I wasn't as sure that Michelle was going to get one, just because Matt is a crazy person. He's a wild card, and like, I can't anticipate any of his decisions. But when she got the rose, I was like, yes, this is correct to me, because remember earlier, we're talking about which girls were mean and which ones weren't. We are down to the 4 who didn't say anything, who did not pile on Heather. These are the women who are mature and can handle difficult situations better. Piper was like unleashing on Heather, and it was not the first time that she melted down this season. So I was like, honestly, girl, bye. Like, you have some growing up to do. And the way she handled the exit just kind of reinforced that she's got some maturing to do. She doesn't hug him. She doesn't say anything. She just hops her butt in the back of the car and leaves, and is kind of pouting.
Yeah. And that's when you go, I made the right choice. Like, she didn't handle that with grace at all. Yeah, I think, David, you're being very generous that these are the 4 girls who didn't say anything, when you know how editing works.
Oh, of course. Yes.
The producers knew that was the final 4, so therefore they minimized
whatever
negative things they said. So we can't say they never said anything. We don't know.
True.
But we do know that Michelle is a school teacher and a little bit older. Like, she's obviously a bit more mature than Piper. That kind of thing.
Michelle's the one that I actually believe she didn't say anything mean to Heather, because I was actually surprised that she didn't say anything in support of Heather, as in like, y'all did the same thing to me. Can we not with Heather?
Yeah.
Can you not do this again? So I kind of believe that, I fingers crossed, like, I would like to believe that she didn't say anything mean, but we did see some mean things from Serena P. And like, you're right. Who knows what Rachel and Bree said that didn't make it to air, because the producers needed to like preserve their reputations for these hometown dates,
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, I agree with you. At this point, like, I'm confused on the Serena P. sitch of all of this, but at the end of the day, these 4, that's a pretty decent 4 for him. Once Piper walked out, I was like, okay, I'm on board with, I think Rachel and Michelle are the leaders for sure, but we've also thought, like, at least in the beginning, we thought Bree had a chance, weren't sure if that was going to fizzle out. So I think those 3 are decent for him.
Yeah, Serena P, I think she would be my prediction to go home next week, if only because she doesn't seem into it. Like, he seems more into it than she does. And even in the preview, it's one of her female family members is sitting down with her and being like, it really doesn't feel like you're smitten here. And Serena's like getting emotional, because she's not smitten. She doesn't like Matt that way.
You don't. You are confused because there are cameras in your face, but you do not have feelings for him.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. But let's be honest here.
In with him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So next week, our hometowns with Rachel, Michelle, Bree, and Serena P.
Yes. And, we keep calling them hometowns. They're not hometowns. It's meet the parents, meet the families. It's that moment. But I'm excited to see where some of these folks came from, because especially with Brie, we've heard so much about her mom and we finally get to meet her. So that's going to be kind of a cool moment, and to see a little bit more about what made these women the way they are. So,
yes, I was just distracted because I wanted to look up I'm going to link, it didn't go through my email yet, but I'm going to link an article that basically runs down all of the Rachel drama and Chris Harrison drama, because there's a lot.
There's a lot, y'all.
And David and I are just not the type of recappers who dive into all of that crap. So we're not gonna. But I will link it in the description so that you can it's basically a great timeline of how everything went down.
Mm-hmm.
What we do know is that Chris Harrison got himself in a pickle, and he has stepped away from the franchise for just now. I don't know what that means long term, but he's basically not going to host the after the final Rosie thing, right? What's that thing?
Yeah, after the final rose. Yeah, he, it from what I understand, it kind of started with an interview on Extra. Mm-hmm. He's being interviewed by Rachel Lindsay, former Bachelorette herself. Mm-hmm. Again, Sarah will post the timeline and you can kind of figure out what all of it's about. But in that thing,
figure out your opinion on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Take your own stance here.
Yeah.
But he does talk about Women Tell All, like you said earlier, and he basically spoiled in this interview with Rachel that Rachel on Matt's season was going to be in the final four, because he's like, Rachel was not at the Women Tell All, so that's kind of a dead giveaway that she makes it to a certain point.
Oh, I wanted to ask you that because they said she wasn't there, so I was like, what does that mean?
It's like the final 2 or 3 are not there at the Women Tell All. There.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So that was kind of a spoiler, but yeah, it's a long interview. The clip I saw was like 14 minutes, and he and Rachel are talking about. It's confusing because there's 2 Rachels, but he and Rachel Lindsay are talking all about this controversy surrounding Matt's Rachel. And there's been a lot of blowback from the fandom. Mm-hmm. Again, we're not going to get too much into it, but I don't think it's entirely undeserved. But yeah, watch the interviews for yourself. Rachel also has a conversation with Mike, a former African-American contestant, about the situation. I haven't seen that one myself, but there's a lot going on right now. So
there is, and Rachel has released an apology. Chris has released a couple apologies. So read through it if you're interested. Read through it and see, because I unfortunately, David and I have to talk about all of these apologies all the time in just about every show we do. Someone has to put out an apology, and we've kind of talked about you take each one differently and you decide how you feel about that apology. First off, is it even a real apology? And, do you believe it? Does it seem like the person is learning and growing? Because I do feel like these are conversations that need to happen. Things need to be pointed out that this is not a way to behave. This is not a way to speak. We have to hold people accountable and have these conversations so that there is growth. I'd much prefer conversation and growth than just canceling and judging people.
Yeah, right.
That's my personal preference. So again, you can read through it if you're interested and read all of the apologies and, judge for yourself. But I do think that that's a huge step that Chris is not going to be hosting this after.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. This is the second time we've seen him step away, because he stepped away to send his kid to college in Tayshia's season. But before this, Chris Harrison's always there. He's the one reliable thing about The Bachelor, because Bachelor relationships are certainly not reliable.
One more rose. Oh my gosh, Bachelor. You said it. Well, I'm hoping that maybe just this once, at least, that Rachel, the former Bachelorette, hosts the After the Rose, just because that
would be fantastic.
A little fitting for what's happening right now.
It certainly does. And for the moment, she's the first Black Bachelorette. He's the first Black Bachelor. There's some symmetry there. I think that's a great choice, Sarah.
We'll see.
It might be JoJo. They might just do, or they might do Ashley I. Let's bring Ashley I back to sneeze on everybody after the final rose.
Look, I'm sure that she's lovely, but I don't need. It feels like one of them has been groomed to be a host on the show, and I think we should look elsewhere. Is my professional opinion on that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, the push-ups at the end were hilarious.
Funny, yeah. I was like, yes, Michelle. Great.
Right? I already liked
I'm into
Michelle. And now we find out she's even funnier than we realized.
I know. Yeah. You really don't get to, like, there's only certain characters that get to show a sense of humor for the most part. Everybody else is just like lovey-dovey and all of that. Katie was the one this season who's like the funny one, you know, and then of course Victoria's like funny in her own way, but mostly a mess. But it's fun to like see this other side of Michelle here and to see them just kind of goofing around and being real. So I liked that a lot.
And to hear the other girls be like, oh my God, I love Michelle. She's so hilarious. Like that's fun to see.
Yes.
That they're not just mean girls, that they can get along.
Yes, growth.
All right, so next week is some sort of weird hometown version. And then usually after that, David, is Fantasy Suites. Is that usually next? How does it go from there?
Yes. Fantasy Suites for the final 3. And then there's just like big, you know, fancy final dates for the final 2 and then the final
Do they meet his mom at some point?
Yes, I believe it's the final 2 who will meet his mother. So I wonder if his mom has just been like there at the resort the whole time.
Hanging out. Yeah. She's fine. She's chilling. Pennsylvania, is that where they are? Philadelphia, something?
Right.
Okay, great. Well, we're close to the end of this.
We are. Yeah.
I think the final 2 is obvious, but it's not always. They throw us twists and turns all the time.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Matt is a bit unpredictable. So,
you guys, thank you for joining us live in the chat. We appreciate your commentary and thoughts.
We do. Yes. And if you're joining us later, we want your commentary as well, specifically on the Kit exit, specifically on the Abigail situation. And then throw us your thoughts about Piper. We thought, you know, maybe she's got some growing up to do, but what do you think there?
Yeah, that's right. Let us know, and we will see you next time.
All right. Bye.